Now let's go to CBS 2's Dana Kozlov, who is also at the courthouse getting reaction. Dana.
Of the fact that his sentence was not going to make anybody 100% happy, and that is what he said before he handed down that sentence of 81 months. And reaction has definitely been emotional on both sides, but Special Prosecutor Joseph McMahon, who was speaking while Roseanne was reporting on what she witnessed out here today, seemed really resigned to the sentence.
We know that no sentence will bring back Laquan MDonald or undo the hurt to his family and friends, just like no sentence will fix the concerns of the African American community in this city.
Members of the African American community in the city, though, have been speaking out since the sentence was handed down about 30 minutes ago. Many of them very emotional, many of them very angry, including activist William Calloway, who believes that this sentence was far too light.
We don't agree with the judge's ruling at all. We feel that what Jason Van Dyke did was shooting Laquan 16 times. He deserves to spend the rest of his life behind bars. That's something that's a consensus amongst the activist community, the black community, and most Chicagoans at large. Today we didn't get that ruling. Today we got something that we didn't expect to see. 81 months in the Illinois Department of Corrections. That's a slap in the face.
William Calloway went on to urge everybody to register to vote. He said that is how change can happen. Now, I was sitting in the row in front of Tiffany Van Dyke, who was very stoic once the sentence came down. We have yet, at least I have yet, to see Jason Van Dyke's family come down or to hear from his defense attorneys. We're hoping that will happen sometime very soon. Reporting live from the Layton Criminal Courts building, Dana Kozlov, CBS 2 News. Erica.
Okay, Dana, thank you. Now let's bring in our legal expert, Irv Miller, to talk about all of this. Irv, let's start with the sentence here. 81 months. The activist saying that it's a slap in the face. And actually, the amount of time that Jason Van Dyke will actually have to serve is even less than the 81 months. Talk us through that.
You know, 81 months is not the actual sentence. Basically, he's going to have to do 3 more years in the Illinois Department of Corrections. In Illinois, on a second-degree murder conviction, you only do half the time that the judge imposes. It's not like if he was convicted of the aggravated battery with a firearm, where he would have had to do 85%. And frankly, he walked in there today expecting to do another 15 years in the Illinois Department of Corrections. He found out now he's going to do 3 years in the Illinois Department of Corrections. It's a pretty good day for the Van Dyke family.
The special prosecutor, Dana was mentioning, and Roseanne as well, the reaction that's coming out. And with the special prosecutor, he actually seemed resigned to the outcome of this case. But there is an option for appeal in even this circumstance. What option does the prosecutor have if they are not satisfied with the sentence here?
You know, the prosecutor could take this up to the Illinois Appellate Court and say, hey, listen, he should have been sentenced on the more serious charge, which the prosecutor believes is the aggravated battery with a firearm. If the appellate court agrees with the prosecutor that the judge was wrong and sentencing on the second degree, then that could result in the appellate court sending this back to the trial court, sending it back to Judge Gaughan in the future, and have Officer Van Dyke be resentenced on the more serious charge. So this did not end today. This has the potential of going on into the future with an uncertain outcome.
So, Irv, we all were watching all day long. A lot of emotion in that courtroom on both sides. We heard from the daughter. We heard from the wife of Jason Van Dyke. And we also heard from the family of Laquan MDonald. How did the emotion seem to you in the courtroom, and how do you think it impacted the judge's decision?
I think it made a difference. Typically, Judge Gaughan makes up his mind early in a case and sticks to it. But this was such emotional testimony that you heard today from the wife and the daughter and the other members of the family. I think it did have an effect on the eventual sentence and on his overall rulings in this case.
Now, we know that the span of time that Jason Van Dyke could have received was probation to 96 years. And you mentioned the wife. She asked for time served and probation. But within this range, what are your thoughts on the fact that he did sentence him on the second-degree murder charge and he could end up doing no more than 3 years?
Well, it's a surprise to a lot of us quote-unquote legal analysts. Many of us, including myself, thought that he eventually would be sentenced on the what we thought was the more serious charge, the aggravated battery charge, since that is a Class X felony. But I have to say the judge did a good reasoning, good legal reasoning, in how he came to the conclusion today that he should be imposing a sentence on the second degree and not the aggravated battery with a firearm. His reasoning made sense, and I think that when the case gets up to the appellate court, this may stand, and I'll be curious to see if the prosecutor does in fact decide to appeal the sentencing decision in this case.
All right, Irv, we want to take a quick view here of the courthouse, the Layton Criminal Courthouse, where guards are standing right outside. We're told the family, as Dana was mentioning, was still inside the courtroom. The family for Jason Van Dyke, we have not yet seen them, but we're going to keep an eye on this courtroom and all the officers that are assembled outside to see if that family does come out and if Jason Van Dyke's father, who was also testifying, speaking on his behalf today, or perhaps his wife does decide to make a statement. So, Irv, I want to ask you now about where Jason Van Dyke is heading. So right now he's been in jail. It's not in Cook County. He's been Rock Island.
Correct.
And from here, what are the next steps? And I also I know this is something that you know a lot about. The length of his sentence will actually impact where he ends up going.
That's correct. I mean, he will be transferred, if not today, certainly within the next day or two, from Rock Island County directly to the Illinois Department of Corrections, probably to the reception facility in Joliet, Illinois. And at that time, they will classify him and determine whether he should be put in a medium, a minimum, or a maximum security penitentiary. And one of the criteria that the Department of Correction uses in making that decision is the length of the sentence. So the fact that he received a relatively light sentence, that he has to do another 3 years as opposed to another 15 years, will impact that decision, and he's more likely now to be sent to a medium or a minimum security institution than a medium or a maximum security institution. So it's pretty significant concerning what his living conditions will be for the next 3 years.
Yeah, and we're talking about a former police officer, and we've heard from both sides, even the prosecution admitting that the stay in any sort of prison for a police officer, there's a heightened sense of concern for security. So right now he's been in solitary confinement, or at least away from the general population. What will be his surroundings when he gets to whatever prison he's sent to?
You know, he will not be put in general population. He will be a protected prisoner. He will be monitored to make sure that his personal safety is not violated. He may be even transferred from a state facility to a federal facility, a federal penitentiary, a minimum security federal penitentiary, if in fact that the Illinois Department of Corrections think that there's any security issues at all with the safety, such as with what they did with Drew Peterson not too long ago in transferring him to an Illinois penitentiary into a federal penitentiary for his own safety.